Good morning, everyone. My name is Karine Nishimura. I'm a Radio France correspondent in Japan, as well as the newspaper Libération. I'm French, and I'm happy to moderate this press conference with two guests today. We have Taketani Etsuko-san, Etsuko-sensei, which is a professor of American literature at the Faculty of Humanities and Social Science at the University of Tsukuba, and Yukari Yoshihara-sensei, who is also at the University of Tsukuba, Associate Professor, Graduate School of Humanities and Social Science. And both of them will talk about a problem they are facing in the Tsukuba University, but who may also happen in other universities in Japan, which is the fact that for ranking, some data has been changed by the top universities to show that the Tsukuba Universities is on the top ranking for international universities in Japan. And they are saying that it's wrong, and they will explain us what difficulties they are facing and why they are fighting to avoid that kind of a problem to extend in other universities in Japan, and may have an impact on international students coming in Japan. So let's have a presentation before we open the floor to a question for all of us. I ask you to begin to your presentation and how you are facing a lot of problems in Tsukuba universities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for having me here today. I'm Etsuko Taketani, professor at the University of Tsukuba. Today, I want to talk about critical issues related to the University of Tsukuba, namely academic fraud and the eroding of the university's autonomy. These issues have a significant bearing on the future of higher education in Japan and on the future of the nation as well. This is partly because the president of the university, Dr. Kyosuke Nagata, occupies a most influential position in Japan's higher education system, serving as chair of the Japan Association of National Universities. Last year, the university garnered attention in the national media because it became the first academic institution to be granted large-scale funding of up to 2 billion yen by the Ministry of Defense. The university drew fierce criticism from academic and civic anti-military groups who seemingly suspected that President Nagata was trying to transform the university into a military research institution for Japan's rearmament. Only a year earlier, in December 2018, the university had issued a policy statement against military research on campus. Then why this sudden reversal? How did it become possible to violate the policy statement within such a short span of time? As the faculty later discovered, President Nagata covertly laid down a rule to give it the green light to a research project funded by the Defense Ministry. There was no debate, no chance to reach a consensus. There was Nagata's will and Nagata's decision alone. We faculty didn't know anything about it until we read it in the newspapers. President Nagata's explanation to the faculty and to the media was pure sophistry. he claimed that the Japan Self-Defense Forces do not constitute a military force, and therefore that there is no such thing as military research in Japan. In his personal definition, military research is research that focuses exclusively on quote-unquote attacking. In the wake of this scandal, the university's President Selection Committee, appointed by Nagata, sowed new seeds of chaos. The committee scrapped limitations on the term of office for the president. The chair of the committee notified us on April 1st last year that the university regulations have been changed. But this was no April Fool's joke. There is no record in the committee minutes as to how and when the committee passed the change. The committee acted unprofessionally and behind closed doors. The President Selection Committee destroyed whatever little democracy remained by re-electing Nagata, in spite of the fact that he was completely defeated in a preliminary ballot conducted by the faculty. The committee thus effectively allowed him to remain in power for life despite protests from the faculty. Quietly, but surely, the President Selection Committee changed the way that the university is governed by placing Nagata, a president for life, at the core and by ignoring the clamor of dissenting voices. As a result, academic fraud committed by those in charge of the university will continue unabated. One notorious example is the recent Times Higher Education scandal. For several years running, the university has been submitting false data on the number of international students to the THCE World University Ranking. Now let's take a look at the graph. This line graph shows that Tsukuba's position is currently hovering at between 400 and 500th place in the THCE World University Rankings. The University of Tsukuba and Kyoto University are among the global top 100. Now let's take a look at this bar graph. This shows the ratio of international students provided by top national universities: Tsukuba, Tohoku, Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Nagoya. Data provided for THCE World University Rankings and THCE Japan University Rankings. A quick glance at the graph reveals the existence of a discrepancy in the data submitted by Tsukuba. It says that the percentage of international students in the student body is 20%, which is, by the way, the same as that of Yale University in the United States. Now, here's another graph that shows a discrepancy in the data from another academic year. It says the ratio of international students in the student body is 21%, surpassing that of the ratio of international students in Yale University. These discrepancies create inconsistencies across rankings. In the ratio of international students, Tsukuba is ranked number 1 in Japan in THE World University rankings, while it is ranked 3rd among 86 national universities in THE Japan University rankings. Now, what causes these discrepancies? This was a question that spurred an investigation into the data submitted by Tsukuba by THE. The final statement that THE issued following its investigation, that is in the handout, reveals that the university inflated the number of international students by including those who are not students by THE's guidelines and definitions. In fact, the university included those who are not enrolled in undergraduate or graduate programs and hence cannot earn credits, and included visitors who stay on campus for fewer than 3 months and hence do not have any student ID and cannot earn credits. THE helped the university to understand the definitions, which are incidentally written in English. We don't know whether Nagata and his cabinet misreported the data because they misunderstood the English used in the document, or because they don't know what an institutional credit is, or because they knowingly ignore the definitions in order to gain unfair advantage. But please note that the guidelines for THE Japan University rankings are also written in English. As you can see from the document that Nagata provided to the media in the press conference, that is again in your handout, THE's definitions for the World University rankings and the Japan University rankings are virtually identical. Nevertheless, one of Nagata's cabinet members still claims that THE is to blame, implying that the university is not guilty of error and that it will continue to submit false data to THE. He claims, one of the cabinet members, claims that THE's definition of what constitutes a student is quote-unquote vague, in spite of the fact that universities across the world are able to abide by the definition with no problem at all. Another example of academic fraud is the recent Designated National University scandal. Designated National University is a title conferred to the national universities at the top global level. Last year, President Nagata applied for the conferment of said status successfully. However, during the application process, he submitted false data on international students again with an alleged aim of boosting the university's image of its own international outlook. This data was based on some same false data that have been submitted to THE. On Monday this week, Mr. Taiga Ishikawa, a Japanese politician and a member of the House of Councillors in the National Diet, summoned 5 officials of the Ministry of Education to request an investigation into the data, because implicitly or virtually, the Ministry of Education officials have been condoning the fraud. The meeting was recorded. The officials made only evasive answers. In the end, they would not initiate an investigation unless the university admits its dishonesty and chooses to resubmit the correct data to the ministry. But this is unlikely to happen. We faculty believe that the University of Tsukuba should end its fraudulent practices once and for all, and should return to the honorable practices that previously defined it. We also believe that the university should commit to transparency, academic integrity, and accountability. We finally believe that President Nagata should be held accountable and should not be allowed to clean his hands of these very serious issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. I'm Yukari Yoshihara, Associate Professor at the University of Tsukuba. My role is to try to situate academic fraud in Tsukuba within the context of the eroding of autonomy, democracy, and integrity of universities on national and global scale. Since the National University Corporation Act 2003, university autonomy and democracy has slowly been eroded. This forms the background to academic fraud in University of Tsukuba. A revision of the National University Corporation Act is scheduled to be submitted to the House of Representatives later this month. On the surface, the revision seems to limit the power of the presidents of national universities. However, in reality, presidents will be able to gain even more power to govern and rule the universities with top-down approaches, disregarding the will of faculty members. The reason for this is simple. The auditors appointed to monitor and supervise the president are chosen by the Minister of Education, but in close consultation with the president herself or himself. In addition to this, there are fundamental problems in the process of the selection of national university presidents. The president chooses and appoints the members of the President Selection Committee, and then that committee chooses the next president. Pathetic. Dr. Nagata is remain in his office for life if he pleases due to the decisions made by the members of the President Selection Committee that he chose. The committee scrapped limitations on the president's term of office. It reappointed him in spite of the fact that he was utterly defeated in preliminary ballot conducted amongst the faculty by an almost 2/3 majority. Where is campus democracy? The National University Corporation Act, if revised, could induce more interventions on the part of the government and the Minister of Education into university governance, because it is the minister who has the final authority to appoint the auditors. Where is university autonomy? What is happening at Tsukuba now may begin to happen at other universities too. This would be a nightmare scenario, the worst of all possible worlds. These issues are not simply local matters peculiar to Tsukuba. That's why we've been holding national press conferences, because it is a national issue. But holding a national press conferences was not enough. We need international attention, particularly because the university has been deceiving and betraying international students and the global community of people in higher education by submitting false data on the number of international students to THCE, World University Rankings. This scandal needs to be known on global scale, not only so it can find resolution in Tsukuba, not only to heal the integrity of the Japanese higher education system, but to highlight issues of autonomy, democracy, and integrity in higher education all around the world. In the world of Kanzo Uchimura, to borrow the words of Kanzo Uchimura, this is not a regional problem. It is a problem for the nation, and it is a problem for the world. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much both for your presentation. I will open the floor to the question, but I may ask the first. I would like to ask the first question. In that problem, students are involved, in fact. So, how are they reacting to first of all the Defense Ministry research? How do they participate to that research, or do they protest against that research? This is the first question. The second question: in the case of international student data, are students in Tsukuba universities aware of this situation, and how they react?
You mean in the problem of international students?
Yes.
To the international students?
Yes.
In Tsukuba, okay.
Yeah.
All right. The number of international students is publicized on the homepage, website of the official website of the University of Tsukuba. So everybody knows that we have only, 2,300, international students, not 3,700 students. But this problem probably has a great impact on the education that the university gives to the international students, because the more the number of the students increases, we need more qualified professors who can teach classes in English. So that is the most important problems, and the current students, from abroad are facing, this, problem as well, because, not many students are not familiar with the academic Japanese language, and they take classes in English. But how many professors can teach classes, all in English? Probably, Yukari can add, some comments, because she knows a lot of the problems that international students, face.
Oh, yeah. Well, as to the reaction of the students, including Japanese students and international students, one of the problems is that they are afraid to speak out. They are afraid if they speak out their opinions, they are feeling that they could have some sort of problem with the university. That's the reason why they are not. That is one of the reasons, I suppose, they are not doing any sort of protest or that sort of thing. And this shows how we are living under 1984 situation, under strict information regulations. And also, one of my former students from Myanmar, I was talking with her about the university plan to increase the international student number up to 5,000. What she told me, it is simply impossible, sensei, because our university is not ready to accommodate these international students, both in terms of education and also in terms of their living conditions, etc. For example, if they're going to be educated in Japan, we need good, efficient teachers of Japanese if they're going to be making the best of the result of studying in Japan. But sadly, we are losing these efficient teachers of Japanese and Japanese culture. How can we educate international students without these talented, efficient teachers? So, yeah, that's what I can think of at this moment.
And about the so-called military research, what are the reaction of the student?
It's difficult to know what kind of reaction the students had because I speculate that since we faculty members did not know anything about it until we read it in the newspapers, so the students didn't know anything, until they read it in the newspapers. So it's kind of difficult to find out how they reacted to the military research problem. Any comments?
Well, this is another sort of 1984 situation. We and the student are not sufficiently being informed about what is going on in the university, including, weapon development technology and the plan to increase the number of international students. We are not sufficiently informed. While that is one of the core of the issues, I suppose.
And also the president, defined military research to be research that exclusively focuses on attacking. And this research is not going to be used, as a weapon to kill people. Then the student, would not have any, big problem. The university is not, developing a weapon to kill people, in a foreign country. That is what the President Nagata is saying.
Any question from the floor? Yeah, please. Please give your name and affiliation before asking your question.
I'm Kakuchi from University World News. Can you tell me a little bit more about the election, Yoshihara Sensei, because you showed the big discrimination. And so, how is this election done, and what is the reaction now from the faculty, from the rest of the faculty?
Well, this is showing the result of the ballot we had at the election. But the thing is, the election committee is simply ignored our faculty's opinion, partly because present law is allowing the selection committee to ignore the result of our opinion polls. We are not having, the faculty members are not being given the power to have a direct influence over the selection of over the selection committee. And this is not limited to our university. In large number, in almost all, shall I say, in almost many of the national universities, the president selection committees are being allowed to ignore or put little importance on the faculty's ballot. And yeah, that is one of the things, one of the issues. And also, well, what are the reactions of the faculties and people and students? They were being stunned, scandaled to see the obvious result. And they are also scandaled and stunned by the decision of the selection committee that they actually ignored this. But we have no power as of now to overturn it. Am I answering your question?
I'd like to add, one more thing. The President Selection Committee, I said, scrapped limitations on the term of office for the president, but they also scrapped the system of what we called the vote of intent, meaning ballot conducted by the faculty. They scrapped it. They scrapped the system of the faculty vote system. And then they allowed us to create less important ballot system. That is what we refer to. And then they have good reason to ignore this because they themselves, scrapped the system of the vote of intent. So this is less important. And also, 5 days prior to the day when they decided who would be the next president, the University of Tsukuba was designated as conferred the title of the designated national universities, so that they had a good reason to re-elect President Nagata again because he applied for designated national university title. And then this was his achievement. And then they had a good reason to allow him to remain in power to accomplish the goals of the University of Tsukuba as a designated national university. So,
I received a couple of questions online, and one of them was on this question is about the election of the president. I think you just answered the question. It is from Science Magazine, Norma Ilsan, and he said, I believe presidents of the former national universities were previously elected by faculty. Is that not longer true? So you answered that it has been scrapped. What was that policy change he was asking? So you explained. And also he asked, is it unusual the fact that Dr. Nagata seems to have already held the office of president for the longest period of time of any president? Mm-hmm. It's unusual.
Right, yeah. Right. Before the school, the university regulations prescribe that the term of office is 6 years. But he remains to be a president already for 8 years. Because his former predecessor became sick, and he had 2 more, years as a term of office. So, he assumed leadership in 2013, and 2 years later, we had an election, and he was elected, and then he had 6 more years as a term of office. So he had been president for 8 years, the longest years, before he was re-elected again, and to become a new president in April.
I have other question coming from Denis Normail of Science Magazine. He said, I believe the percentage of international students is only one of many factors considered by the THCE in this ranking. How much can overstating the percentage of international students affect University of Tsukuba's rank?
Tsukuba's what?
Yeah, it means the percentage of students is only one of the factors taking into account to make the ranking, but how heavy is this number of students on the general ranking?
Yeah, the general ranking, as I said, the University of Tsukuba is between 400 and 500 place. And the in THCE World University Rankings, the number of international students occupies only 2.5% of the whole evaluation system. So it doesn't affect the ranking itself. Then why do they cheat the system? That is the question we have. Because University of Tsukuba is not, at global, top 100 universities, but the only reason, the reason that University of Tsukuba can be appreciated is that it's international. We have more international students than University of Tsukuba, Tokyo, and Kyoto University, or Nagoya University, or Osaka University. So probably in terms of research, we can't beat the University of Tokyo and Yale University. But in terms of the ratio of international students, we can beat. The University of Tsukuba can beat Yale University and UC Berkeley and other top universities in the world. So international outlook is the most important elements to make universities' reputation in the international context. So that is probably the reason.
A third question from Denis Normail of Science Magazine. He asked, have you contacted THCE about this issue? And in this case, what was the THCE's response?
Hi, yes. We contacted. Now, actually, this discrepancy was discovered by a Japanese journalist. We didn't discover it. A newspaper journalist discovered that there is a curious gap between THCE Japanese ranking and THCE World ranking. And he discovered it because shortly prior to this, the designated national university scandal was reported in Japan. And if you detect something wrong in one corner, you would tend to look for another fraudulent practices somewhere else. And then that's why this newspaper reporter detected. We contacted THCE, and then we had two statements. They are in the handout. One says that there is an apparent discrepancies. One of the statements says that they are investigating right now. And then THCE said that if you find any other discrepancies, please let them know. That is what they said. And the second statement is what we got. And then they said this is in the public domain document. And then it said that there is no problem with Japanese rankings. In the Japanese rankings, the university said that we have only 12% of international students in the student body. There is no problem with this. But in terms of the ratio of international students, for the world university rankings, there is a problem. That's why they conducted an investigation. And then according to the statement, they worked with the University of Tsukuba to understand what kind of students were included in the category, and then they recommend which student should be included, implying that University of Tsukuba didn't include those who are not students by THCE's definition. So we officially contacted twice.
Yes, we have maybe people online also received a document. This is the answer from THCE about this question. Any other question from the floor? Nobody? So I have one about the fact that this year, in fact, because of COVID, and this was also the case last year, international students are almost not allowed to enter Japan because of a border measure, Mizugiwa Taisaku. And in this case, the Tsukuba Daigaku may also be affected, and the number of students will drop sharply this year. So it will. Don't you think it will, in fact, almost solve the problem? And I mean, the ranking of Tsukuba University and the ratio of international students will have, in fact, drop sharply. Don't you think that could also point out the fact that the strength of Japanese universities for international students, in fact, will become very low, yes. And they won't be anymore in position to appeal on the fact that it's a global standard university, or it's a big university for international students. What is your opinion on that fact?
I don't think this problem can be solved, thanks to COVID-19. First of all, there is a system of online exchange students. As long as you earn credits, these students can be counted and fall under the category of students. So you don't have to be here physically on campus. And secondly, for the next THCE world ranking is based on the statistics based on the academic year on 2018 to 19. So that that is before COVID-19. So.
Yeah. So I'm just hoping. Well, because of the COVID-19, the number 5,000 international students within 5 years is becoming virtually impossible to achieve. And I just wonder how they are going to make it. And I just hope they would do the honest business to count the number of the students in the legitimate, rightful way when they are going to be counting the number of the online exchange students. Yeah, that's what I feel.
And one other question about the first problem you mentioned with the military research. I remember there was a kind of a similar problem with Gakujutsu Kaigi. Yes, and did you receive any support from other universities people or share the same opinion than you on that purpose?
About this President Selection Committee problem, this is not military research question, because some scientists know that it's a matter of dual use. Anybody can be used for peace, atom for peace. That is what Eisenhower said, and so that it's a tricky question. But in terms of the President Selection Committee, they have such a power so that they can do the same thing, as they did in the University of Tsukuba. So we have, we share the common agenda, and we have, a group with Kyoto University, University of Tokyo, and Oita, Hiroshima, and Hokkaido University.
Well. I've been getting contact with some of these people who are working for those universities who are having some issues about the university democracy and autonomy. And the members that those people I've been in contact with is working for university like Tokyo University, Kyoto University, and Hiroshima University, and Kitakyushu Ichiritsu University, and Oita University, etc. These universities are having really seriously horrible problems in terms of the president selection systems, and this is just a voluntary group of people who are concerned about these issues, and we are loosely getting connected. But one of the things we are wanting to work on together is try to stop the revision of the National University Corporation Act, reportedly scheduled to be submitted to the House of Representatives later this month. Because if we cannot stop this revision of the National University Corporation Act, disasters will happen. Further disasters will happen to all national and prefectural, and also to private universities in terms of university autonomy and democracy. We are wanting to stop that.
I have a question about that I received from Mr. Normile of Science Magazine. He asked you to give more explanation on what will be changed in that National Universities Corporation Act. What is the purpose of the revision? Is it only affecting the university president power, or is there other matter inside this revision?
Okay. Well, I do not pretend that I understand all of the business, but what I understand is that the revision is going to be making the university even more business, money-making orientated. That's one of the things that are making us nervous. Yeah. So one is university autonomy, and two is making universities into a money-making machine. That's the second part we are being nervous about.
I asked you just before we entered this room, what are the relations between Mr. Nagata and the politics side? Can you give some information about that? You showed a picture, photography in the beginning of a yes. So, do you think that what is doing Mr. Nagata and and the revision of the National Universities Corporation Act is a politically oriented decision? How do you analyze that?
Okay, that could be conspiracy theory, but I'm feeling that President Nagata is very close to the top people of the government. And I cannot prove it, but I feel that. And at least what I can say is Dr. Nagata is super influential. Being the president of Kokudaikyo, I forgot the English name, he can have a great influence on what is going to be happening to the higher education overall. I cannot really say how close or how not so close to the Dr. Nagata is to the heart of the power of this country, but that's what I am feeling now. And at least this impressive picture is being on university website. And this is at least meant to impress us that Dr. Nagata is very close to the minister. This is intended in that way, I suppose.
I would imagine, the LDP would like presidents like Nagata. And then if LDP wants want national universities, not private universities, national university to do something, they could say that, well, we're going to distribute budget. We get, budget from the government. So if you are obedient to the policy of the LDP, you can get more, funding from the government. And then if you say that, well, we are doing something related to military research, and then you get 12, actually we got 12 billion yen. That's a huge funding to us. But you have to do something related to military research. But Nagata decided that we'd like to do this because we can get money. And it pleases the LDP. If they, I don't know, we can't speculate. If they want to transform, they are thinking of Japan's rearmament. University of Tsukuba is a good university to support the plan and objectives of the nation. As I said, and this is my speculation, we don't have any evidence.
Any other question from the floor?
And in terms of military research funded by the Defense Ministry, as I said, University of Tsukuba was the first academic institution, the first national university to be granted large-scale funding up to 20 billion yen. And of course, Gakujutsu, Nihon Gakujutsu Kaigi is against military research. And then we know that. But Nagata decided that, we're going to do something related to a project if this is funded by, a government, because the government gives us, a big money.
You said it is the first. Is it also the only one?
The first academic institution to be granted large scale. Small scale funding could be granted to other universities, I suppose. But 12 to 20 billion yen is a big, large funding. So in terms of the amount of the budget and funding, Tsukuba is the first academic institution.
Do you think, I think so, but do you think there is a gap between the vision you have of your work, which is to give knowledge to a student, and the vision of the policy makers, and especially LDP, which is a more economical and more to make university useful tools for the country, and students to be able to help the country rather to have knowledge and to develop themselves. Do you think there is a vision problem between what professors at university are tending to do and what the policymakers are wanting them to do?
I think that the policymaker, the Japanese government, wants to use national universities, as you said, tools. But the academic institution should not be a tool of the government. Like in Turkey or like in China, if this happens, democracy and university autonomy and academic freedom can be destroyed. So we shouldn't think of a university as a tool.
And also, well, this might be related to the fact both of us are coming from humanities. We are in humanities, and we are wanting to educate our students to be critical thinkers. We are wanting them to become well-informed critical thinkers. But it looks like the policymakers in this country and some of the university people are wanting to make them quite super obedient subject who follows what is being dictated. This is my speculation, but the policymakers and some of the university faculties seems not to be wanting educate the student into a critical thinkers. And in my eyes, that's a huge problem. I want the university to be the place to make the students well-informed critical thinkers. And that might be that this opinion could be related to the fact that I'm coming from humanities. And humanities, as you might know, is being in danger of becoming erased out of the university system. Well, humanities people are having such a large number of issues with universities because the funding is severely being cut. And there are so few tenured younger scholars who can teach the students into a productive way. And this problem is also a matter of the crisis in humanity education in Japan as well. Thanks.
I think freedom of speech and critical thinkings make humans human. If we make students tools or puppets for the future of the nation, it means that we deprive them of their humanity, because humanity is freedom to think, freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and freedom to act, freedom to criticize. So I think this issue is related to what Yukari said, the importance of the humanities studies. Of course, science makes money, but we don't want to make students puppets of the government's goal. We are making students. We need to make humans human, and what makes human is the freedom to think, freedom to act, freedom to criticize.
And I do really want my university to, I just wish our university, I just wish our students can speak out what they feel and what they think. But as I've said, they are being not sufficiently informed and they are afraid to speak out. That's really serious problem, and yeah, I want to change that as well.
Thank you both for this presentation and the very good conclusion that I hope all the students also will listen to, because it's very important also for them to understand that they don't have to be a tool for the country. They have to be citizens, of course, but also citizens who are thinking, who are speaking, criticizing. So I thank you very much for this press conference. I hope that the issue will find a solution, and the international media will also report about it. And I hope also you will be able to come back here to tell us how it goes and how the situation is evolving in the coming weeks and months. Thank you very much for today. Thank people online and journalists in the floor. And see you next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.